Welcome to the Sponsored Rider Club podcast, your guide to motorsports sponsorship. Here's your host, Josh Weesey.
Welcome to this episode of the Sponsored Rider Club podcast, which is powered by 4-Wheel Parts. Today we have off-road racer Ronnie Anderson on the line. This show hits on some foundational topics that you just have to remember when entering into this kind of profession, and that's basically to have fun. If you aren't having fun, then you might need to re-examine what you are doing. So we talk about that and some other things on this show. But before we get into the interview, I have a few things to cover with you. First thing, a quick message about 4-Wheel Parts. They just released this really cool looking limited edition 4-Wheel Parts Dixon flannel shirt. I really like it. So it's black, it's got gold and gray piping. It looks really good. Nice like 4-Wheel Parts fall premium colors. So go ahead and check that out. That just released, maybe today, yesterday. It was really, really recent. And then I want you to head over to the Diesel Brothers Instagram page. They did a quote-unquote review of the new Smittybilt XRC Gen 3 winch on Instagram TV. They literally lifted a Ford Raptor up the side of a building. Like, I'm not kidding you. It's pretty wild to see. Just so you know, the video starts off with like, "Don't do this at home, kids." Like, it's pretty amazing though. But check that out. And you can also find out more about both of those things at 4wheelparts.com. And I will tell you too, just mentioning lifting a Raptor up the side of a building. I'm pretty excited because I just bought a Ford Raptor. I'm really, really pumped about this thing. It's new to me, but it's exactly what I wanted. It's kind of my dream truck, so I'm excited to explore that a little bit more and get out and, test it out a little bit. So I've had it for a couple of days now. I haven't been able to get it off-road yet, but hopefully this weekend I can get out there and test it out. So pretty excited about that. Now, about the show here, I would love to get your feedback, specifically on Apple Podcasts, which is typically referred to as iTunes as well. If you would be so kind, head over there and leave that rating and review. It does wonders for the show. And if you've already done it, thank you very much for that. Thanks for showing your support for the show. I really appreciate it. Another way to show support for the show is actually through Patreon. It's a new thing I've been exploring. I haven't really pushed it very hard, but it's a way where you can actually financially support the show too, so we can increase our marketing efforts, reach more people, continue to make these things. So that's another option out there. If you need help figuring out how to do the rating review, or figure out the whole Patreon thing, just send me an email, josh@sponsoredriderclubpodcast.com. And then whatever podcast player you use, there's a whole bunch of them out there: Podbean, Google Play, Stitcher, iHeartRadio. Subscribe. That's the best way to ensure that you're not going to miss any upcoming guests, any upcoming shows. Now, this episode here is brought to you by several awesome companies. AMSOIL, they produce amazing lubrication products, and they are a company that runs on freedom. You can find out more at amsoil.com/rider. SolderWeld, they produce game-changing metal bonding technology, and they're ready to rescue your race. TopThePodium.com, they're experts in motorsports sponsorship and website creation. Bold Racing, they're a family desert UTV race team. Crash Addict Industries, they provide human protection and extreme racing products. And I want to shout out our other partners too: MBRP, HMK USA, Studboy Traction, and High Octane Coffee. And speaking of High Octane Coffee, it is time for the High Octane Coffee Marketing Tune-Up, which features Joe Sylvester of High Octane Coffee, giving you a little bit of sponsorship advice. He can be reached at Joe Sylvester 8, or you can find out more at High Octane Coffee. Then we'll get into the show.
What's up, guys? Joe Sylvester here with your High Octane Coffee Marketing Tune-Up for the day. Today I want to talk about your brand, your personal brand, and the type of fans that you have. Your fans, your followers on social media, those are the customers for your sponsors. So you need to think about companies and brands that align with your personality, your personal image, and your personal brand. Don't approach companies that you don't really using their product, you don't understand, or it doesn't fit with your image. Only approach companies that are going to align with not only your brand, but also your fans and your followers. If your fans are very, blue collar America, pickup trucks, cowboy boots, maybe a wine type of crowd isn't really going to be a good sponsor for you. That's going to be a different type of demographic. Same as, a flower shop for me. I'm a very abrasive personality. I have a certain type, of fans and followers on my social media. So I always try to work with brands and companies that align with my image and the people that associate with me.
We've got Ronnie Anderson on, and I'm really excited to have you on the show here, bud. It took us a couple tries to make it happen, but we did. But Ronnie, now I want you to kind of fill in the gaps for the intro and tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yep, my name is Ronnie Anderson. I'm 19 years old, out of Riverside, California. I drive a Pro Light for RJ37 Offroad, as well as a Polaris Razor in the AMSOIL Off-Road Racing Series.
Oh, that's awesome. And we've had a couple of Andersons on the show before. So we've had Shelby's actually been here twice, and RJ's been on once, but it's been a little while since either of them have seen it. So this is going to be episode 184, I believe, when I end up releasing it, unless I somehow sneak in another show before that. Yeah, I think the last time Shelby was on was like 30, 40 episodes ago. So it's good to have another Anderson back on.
Yeah, for sure. Good to be on here.
Definitely. Well, I kind of want to dig into your background a little bit more here. I want to know about you, how you got started, how'd you get into motorsports. Let's start from the beginning.
Yeah, I started when I was about 10 years old, racing trophy cars. My dad got me started. My brother was already racing UTVs, super lights, and I think that was his second year racing Pro Light. So I was just a little guy racing trophy cars, didn't know much about it, and slowly moved up a little bit, and my dad got me a mod cart, and I loved mod cars. I think mod cars are the best way to get into off-road racing in general. So awesome starter for off-road, and from there wasn't any more stepping stones for me, so I kind of raced some UTV stuff in the Works Racing Series, which another awesome series to help grow your driving skills, and ended up going to Pro Light when I was only 15, which was not ready for it all, for sure, but kind of the only step up in Luke Snow Off-Road after mods was just that huge leap from mod cart to Pro Light at the time. So there was all of us doing, me, Brock Hager, Christopher Polvardi. We were all making that huge leap, and definitely it showed a lot of who could do it and who couldn't. And it was a pretty wild ride for the first 2 years of Pro Light, because it's just immaturity and just a mix of immaturity and not knowing quite what way you wanted to go in off-road and motorsports.
Yeah, definitely. It's pretty cool to hear that, though. Like, I love hearing, I ask everybody their story. Honestly, I go through this in every single show. I mentioned it in the pre-interview, like, sometimes we go follow the outline, sometimes we don't, but every single time I want to hear the story. And it's always interesting hearing people's different perspectives, like, oh yeah, stepping into this race class, I was not ready for it, or I wasn't mature enough, or everybody else wasn't ready for it, or they weren't mature enough. It's pretty cool hearing that.
Yeah, definitely. It definitely, I think, set me up just being at such a young age, thrown into a class with, people that were 40 years old,
right.
So much more knowledge than what I had, and definitely my brother and my dad helped me grow a lot faster than I could have by myself. So definitely helped me grow into where I'm at today, just racing razors, Pro Lights, and just producing some video content with my brother for social media.
Yeah, so that's what I was going to talk about next is, some of your current adventures, things you're really excited about right now.
Yeah, well, right now I'm super excited about the series, how it's going in the UTV class for second. Only a few points out of first place in the UTV turbo class, so super excited about that. Not exactly what I'd like to be in the Pro Light, but we're still got 3 rounds left, so hopefully we can make something happen. And just super excited about all the content that me and RJ have been putting out with just all of our partners, Polaris Razor, Rockstar, and just making that happen on the social side, not just the racing side. So pretty cool that the sponsors want to see us not only racing, but producing content for them as well.
No, that's good. And actually I was going to ask you to just kind of go into some of those things too. What are some of your projects right now from a content standpoint that you're working on with RJ?
Yeah, right now we kind of play it by ear. We pitch ideas. Like we just recently did a video out at Pirates Cove at the river for Rockstar, just playing around in razors, just some water lifestyle stuff with them, and just showing what kind of Rockstar is all about. Just playing around, having fun, but I can't tell you too much before it's released, but definitely some cool stuff coming, and but it's always fun to go out and just play around with our razors or just go out on the boat and just shoot some content.
That's awesome. I always love it when people are like, I better stop telling you things now. Because, yep. Might be too soon. Well, that's cool. I love that stuff. And I know, when RJ was on it, so that was episode 95 when he was on. This is going to be episode 184, so it's been a little while. I think at that point he might have been working on, I think he had already released he had just started the snow, what's it called, Vision? The snow series.
Vision, yep.
Yeah, he had just started that, I believe.
That was super cool.
So, good deal. Well, I don't know, kind of walk us through, who are some of your current sponsors and partners?
Yeah, so currently my main two, I would say, is Rockstar and Polaris Razor. Those are my main backing for both my Polaris Razor and the Pro Light. And then I have South Point Hotel and Casino in Vegas, Walker Racing, Shocks and Wheels, and BF Goodrich Tires on both the UTV and the truck. K&N Air Filters, Holtz Racing Products for the UTV, and that's about my main one.
Nice. So South Point sponsors you, huh?
Yep.
That's
South Point's, cool. They've been around. They're kind of good family friends, I would say, of my dad's, and we kind of approached them with our off-road team and stuff, and the Gone family loves off-road, and they love motorsports, so they're generous enough to help us out a little bit.
Well, that's pretty cool. Yeah, I was actually there this last year for Vegas to Reno. I didn't end up staying there. I ended up getting a red-eye flight back to Michigan, which is where I live, because I was with Craig Scanlon and Scanlon Motorsports Group for Vegas to Reno, and let's just say we had some complications early on in the race, so we didn't make it to Reno. We ended up going back to Vegas and at South Point. But that's a pretty cool setup there. They've got, like, I don't know if anybody knows this, but it's off the main strip, but it's massive, and they've got horse barns, like legit horse barns, all over the place. Like, it is wild. I mean, they host these serious rodeo events there, and I was walking through. I was like, I would have never in a million years guessed that they have all this space, all these garages, like all this capability here for taking care of the horses and storing horses and stuff. It was tremendous.
Yeah, South Point is cool. Just because it is off the strip, you kind of get away from the busyness of the strip, and they have those huge horse arenas and where they have PBR and just the bull riding and stuff. And they have two pulling alleys, actually. They have the one for just the normal people, and then they have the one for tournaments only.
Oh, my gosh.
That's pretty cool about South Point as well.
That is cool. I didn't know about that. They have really good food there, too. I can't remember the name of the place, but there was one of the restaurants, like, when you first walk in, and oh, my goodness. It was really good. But yeah, so that's good stuff. And then, you said Rockstar, Polaris Razor, BF Goodrich. We've had folks from Polaris on here. Obviously Shelby was working for Polaris when I had her on, and then Evan Schindel of Polaris has been on here, and then Peter Calhoun of BF Goodrich has been on. Nate Hunt was on too for just a really short little snippet. I haven't had any Rockstar folks yet though. That might need to be on my list.
Yeah, that'd be cool. It would be cool to have them on here. They're definitely a big influence in the off-road industry, I would say.
Yeah, definitely. Well, hey, that was a great intro, good background here. And now I'm going to take a quick break to thank the sponsors for this podcast, and then we'll hop back into the main event. Let's talk about your truck for a minute. You can count on it to haul your vehicle and your gear to the track or to the trailhead, but I bet you never think about the motor oil. Here's why you should. Your oil is the only thing preventing your engine from wearing out and breaking down. To keep your truck running strong, look for an oil with added wear protection. Like, for example, AMSOIL Signature Series Synthetic Motor Oil. It delivers 75% more engine protection against horsepower loss and wear than is required by the leading industry standard. It provides the next level protection today's demanding engines need to keep running for years and to keep effortlessly towing your ride to the track. Go to AMSOIL.com/rider to find out more. Make the switch to AMSOIL synthetic motor oil today to keep your vehicle running great. When I stop to think about all the things that make motorsports awesome, I think of camaraderie, I think of speed, I think of friendship, and I also think of family. And it's hard to go through all of those elements without thinking of Bold Racing. Now, Bold Racing and Jimmy Moore, the owner, has been a long time supporter of this show and Impact Fuel overall. Jimmy Moore is a desert racer that also has a ton of experience with suspension, UTV axles, and general go fastness. I would love for you to head over to their Facebook page, Bold Racing, or their Instagram page, bold.racing, and just show them some love. Let them know that you support their race program and you want to see them continue to promote the amazing elements of motorsports. Safety is our overriding priority. I hear it all the time, but I have to ask myself, is it though? Is that the first thing we think of? Is that the first thing you think of? Over the past couple of years, we've seen the performance of production UTVs increase, somewhere around 350%. That means these machines give us a lot more opportunity to have fun and win races, but it also, unfortunately, gives us new opportunities to crash. And that's why we have partnered with Crash Addict Industries. The owner, Travis Pointer, became very accustomed to crashing early in his career. He saw it as inevitable, and he set out to make the process safer. With a passion for racing, welding, and engineering, Crash Addict Industries now produces full cage and other protection systems intentionally designed to protect you during an accident on the track. They also offer a line of human protection products through their vendors. Do this for me at this point. If you're racing with a stock cage right now, please go check out CrashAddict.com and at least see what they have to offer. Even if you choose to go with a different company, please make safety your overriding priority. 2 questions I get continuously about this show and about sponsorship is, do I need my own website and do I need a resume? The answer is, in my opinion, yes to both, and that's why we partner with TopThePodium.com. Now, if you want to see an example of what a professional website and what a professional resume looks like, you gotta check out TopThePodium.com. They did my website. The Sponsored Rider Club Podcast website is SponsoredRiderClubPodcast.com. That was created by Jeff Vanistall of TopThePodium.com. I think it's awesome. I get a lot of good feedback about it. And there's a number of other websites out there that Jeff has produced that are just phenomenal. So I think it's important in this world of social media where you have control of your content. That's what a website does. It gives you full control. We don't know what Facebook's going to do sometimes. We don't know what Instagram's going to do. We don't know what Twitter's going to do. So if we don't have that central location to direct people and house our content, there is some risk that we incur. So I strongly recommend getting a website, talking to TopThePodium.com. And then the resume, again, is massive. And if you want to stand out, get it done professionally. And honestly, it is one of the best ways to step up your game and present yourself in the best way possible.
Hey guys, George Hamill here to talk about SolderWeld's new off-road repair kit. If you're a racer of any type or an off-road enthusiast like myself, you're going to want to take a close look at this product that bonds metal on the spot. SolderWeld has combined some of their most elite products into one small kit that fits perfectly under your seat or strapped to a roll cage and allows you to make some insane fixes anywhere you go. How many of us have been in a race or out on the trail and got a rock chip in a radiator or brake line? We have seen a top-tier desert race team at the 2019 Min 400 taken out by a simple rock to the radiator. If they had an off-road repair kit on board, they could have been back up and running in just minutes. The kit includes everything you need to work on dirty aluminum, stainless steel, copper, and many other metals. SolderWeld's cutting-edge technology allows you to make these fixes with extremely low heat and incredibly high tensile strength, leaving you a lasting fix every time. Don't be that guy broke down on the side of the trail. Get your off-road repair kit today, and your friends will thank you.
All right, well, welcome back, everybody. We're now in the main event. That's where you go through some of the more, details about sponsorship tactics and strategies. So, Ronnie, for you, I want to go through maybe a couple of examples of how you initially connected with some of your sponsors, and maybe how you made that pitch, started building that relationship. However you want to kind of throw that at us. We just talked about a couple of them here. Is there one or two of them that you kind of want to talk us through?
Yeah, I think my favorite one, I favorite or best is Polaris Razor.
Mm-hmm.
They've kind of believed in me since I was 14. Joey D helped me. Joey D and Craig Shanlin helped me with just one car when I was 14 years old, and I wasn't even allowed to have a sticker on the side because I wasn't old enough to drive it. So it was kind of a weird deal, and I just kept driving it, and got a few podiums, and they believed in me a little more, and pretty soon we were doing Works races and Lucas races and everything I could in the UTV, and just helping them push some content, doing some of their photo shoot stuff, and just taking every opportunity I could with them to kind of grow my base and help grow their brand as well. So I think that's my best sponsor that I've been with for the longest period of time.
So, I've had Caden Danbury on here and his mom a couple of times, and he's younger and, sponsored by Polaris, but kind of take me to that. I mean, how was it when you were 14 and obviously you had a racing family, so you kind of knew you had some examples to go off of, but how was that knowing that you had expectations as a 14-year-old and I'm assuming you weren't fully sure how to meet those expectations?
Yeah, I mean, at 14, you don't really think of the expectations as, I've got to meet these expectations every time. And at least I didn't as a 14-year-old. I was kind of just, my parents and brother just told me to go out there and have fun. And that's what I did until I got to be older. I just went out there and had fun. And I think that's a key to being successful in racing, is just making sure you're going out and having fun. Because if you're constantly worried about just meeting expectations and doing so good, you're going to just stress yourself out and not do your best out there. Because I've definitely been there in my second year in Pro Light, where I just stressed myself out and did not perform near as what I should have been. So just as long as you're having fun and don't stress yourself too much about the expectations, but just know that they're there, know that you have to perform, but don't worry too much about them to where you're worried sick about it.
Mm-hmm. So how'd you get over that, man? That's got to be pretty tough. I think everybody listening can relate to that, whether it's in their day job or with school or with relationships. Like, how did you get past that?
Yeah, it was tough. I mean, I was in a year or two slump in my Pro Light stuff, and I just could not get out there, and I couldn't perform at all. And my brother and my dad and my whole family kind of helped me through it, and they were just like, "Hey, you're out here to have fun, and if you don't like what you're doing, then you shouldn't be doing it, no matter what's going on, no matter who sponsors you or whatever. You don't have to do it." When the season ends, you could always stop. And I would realize, like, no, this is really what I want to do. And so started having way more fun with it, started doing more stuff on the shop, and just getting around it more often. And it helped a lot with my performance on track as well as off, social media wise. Everything came around.
That's an interesting perspective there, because I've used something similar when things kind of get challenging for me. Is I don't like feeling that I'm tied down to something. I think that creates a little bit more stress for me. So sometimes I'll look and say, you know what, I could stop. I could do this differently. I've even done it like, because I could move to another country. Nothing would stop me.
Yep.
I can do it. I don't want to though. But I want to do what I'm doing. And then I think once I go through that full circle, I'm like, okay, whatever it is, it's not that bad. I could stop. Like, no one is forcing me to do these things. I do it because I like it. So that's a good perspective. I'm curious about going back to the South Point example there. You said that there's family friends that own it or are associated with it. How did you make a pitch to them? Like, how'd you come up with that? And what did that kind of look like?
Yeah, so my dad used to be the crew chief for Walker Evans back in the 80s and 90s. So they've always had tie there. The South Point, which Mr. Don, that is the owner of the South Point, used to own the Orleans and the Gold Coast companies, which was
Okay.
just a few casinos around. And they actually sponsored Walker
Okay.
way back then. So when off-road racing kind of died off, like 2000-ish, and Walker stopped racing, and my dad and Walker started the Shock and Wheel company. Michael and Brennan's his son, started racing NASCAR and stuff like that. And when my dad put my brother in super lights and pro lights and stuff like that, Mr. John was just super happy that we were getting into it. And with Croy Racing Engines, we had kind of have a deal with them, so it kind of helped us out with some of that stuff.
Oh, very cool. Yeah, it's pretty neat. I'll have to keep that in mind next time I'm in Vegas. I'll be there for SEMA, actually, but I'm not staying at South Point. I booked somewhere else, so dang. I could have been like, hey, look, I know Ronnie. It's cool, guys. You know, I'll call you just Ron. Like, you know, me and Ron, we go way back to last month.
Yep.
You know.
Yep, exactly.
Well, have you run into an opportunity yet, or I shouldn't say an opportunity, run into an issue yet where maybe things didn't go as planned with a sponsor? You don't have to share names or anything like that, but you know, maybe a deal didn't work out the way you expected it to, or you know, there was kind of a falling out, or I don't know. Have you run into that?
I haven't had a huge falling out yet. I'm still 19, so I'm still learning as I go. But luckily, I haven't had any crazy letdowns for me or let down any of my sponsors in a crazy way. Luckily, I'm sure as time comes, something will happen. You know, I mean, still young in my career, so but hopefully we can keep on a good track and not let anyone down. That's always the goal, right?
Yeah, and I appreciate the way you said that. A couple of times you've mentioned like yet or I'm still young and it could happen. I think that for people listening too, that's a big takeaway in itself. Like if you have that mindset that things might go wrong, things might, you know, I might lose a sponsor unexpectedly or a deal might not go through that I expected. That's part of life. That's part of racing. It's most likely bound to happen if you do this long enough. You know, some people are fortunate enough to get a sponsor that's in it for the long haul, but for the most part, that doesn't happen. And there's changes that happen along the way. So I think that alone is a good takeaway of things could change, and that's okay. We're ready for it. Good. So you'd kind of mentioned earlier in the background about some of the content you've been helping RJ with and just content that you've created in the past. And this might extend into that, but I was going to ask you, like, what's something unique that you've done to promote your sponsors, whether it's content creation or, you know, maybe it's an event or whatever.
Yeah, I think the content, just the things me and RJ do with our players' razors, where we do them all up and we kind of do like a build sheet on them and stuff on Instagram and stuff like that. So people at UTV brand, even if they're not a UTV brand and they have a sticker on it, people still recognize it because the UTV industry is absolutely blowing up right now. I mean, anyone and everyone with a family that used to ride dirt bikes, now they're getting a 4-seat razor so their family can ride along with them, you know? So I think the UTV industry is helping me and RJ a lot with even our truck stuff. Just kind of do video stuff with our razors and they'll translate over to our trucks. So I think that's a lot of the stuff what me and RJ are doing is just the video creations that a lot of people aren't doing in the off-road industry.
So when you're doing these shoots and stuff, I mean, how do you all come up with the ideas? Do you sit down ahead of time and map something out? Do you pull in a film crew ahead of time? I mean, how do you come up with the ideas for these things?
Yeah, it usually starts. We have 2 guys. We have Daniel, which is mostly still photography stuff, and then we have Scotty, which is all video stuff. So we all kind of text, email, just some ideas on what we want to do, and we kind of just throw them all in a bucket, talk about them, come up with just a rough game plan, and then once we get out to where we're going to shoot, we just kind of go have fun. And we're like, hey, we think this would be cool. Me and RJ will get together and be like, hey, we think this could be cool berm right here, and then we'll hit it one time, and we're like, yeah, that was sick. We'll position over here, stuff like that. It's just kind of you just play it as it goes.
Well, that sounds good. So what are some of the lessons that you've learned already? I mean, like you said before, you're still young, but you have been racing for several years. You're part of a racing family. You know, there's kind of a lineage there. What are some of your key like lessons learned?
Yeah, definitely. Don't take anything for granted. I mean, anything can change at any given point, and definitely work hard at what you want to do. Don't take it lightly. Don't expect something to come to you. You definitely have to work at it every day, and racing is definitely not an easy job, no matter if people think it is or not. It's definitely not easy. You have to be there every day. I actually still personally work on my Pro Light and Razor at the shop every day that I'm home. So try to just keep up on it and stay on top of all the racing stuff and stay up on prep, social media, sponsors, just stay on top of everything every day.
Yeah, and speaking of social media too, I was going to ask you a little bit about that. Like, what's your strategy for it? I mean, how do you create posts, and how do you keep up with all the madness with social media?
I wish I had a better system. Honestly, I should develop a better system. I'm not the best. I wouldn't say I'm the best at social media right now. I still have room to improve for sure. I'm kind of a loose cannon. I kind of post here, post there. But I need to develop a better system for social media for sure.
Yeah, I wish that I didn't hear that all the time because it's so true. I tell my wife, like, because I'm not good at it. I have a love-hate relationship with it. Sometimes I'm like, I just don't want to ever be on social media again, and then I'm like, oh yeah, I forgot that it's really important. Because I would be. I mean, if I didn't have obligations with the podcast, I think I would still be on it and I would still be active. But I just sometimes I don't want to post anything. I just don't want to. And it's the tagging. Honestly, it's the tagging that drives me insane. I cannot like. Oh, that's just the worst part. Everything else is cool. I love sharing something. If I could just share something really quickly and maybe just a quick caption and never tag or hashtag or any of that stuff, that'd be great. But you know, that doesn't really meet all the expectations from that standpoint. Yeah, it's actually, if you don't do that stuff, then for the one, sponsors aren't happy. Two, you're not really adding any value for them at that point, or at least it's much more limited. And then three, if you're not using hashtags and stuff, the likelihood of your content actually getting out there to new audience is pretty limited too. So I understand the importance of it. I teach the importance of it, but sometimes I just don't want to deal with it.
Yeah, it's definitely just throws an extra thing in there, and sometimes I totally forget to make posts and stuff like that. So I definitely need to up my game on the social media side.
You know, I get into this thing because there's a certain time of day where, you know, for me, it seems like when I post around 7:30 p.m. Eastern time, that's when I get the most engagement. But I got 2 kids, you know, I got the show, I got a full-time job, and sometimes I'm like, I don't even know. I just got to get something out here. But still, it takes you to do the 2 or 3 posts and hit all the platforms at night. It could take like 20 minutes to just get that out there. And sometimes I just don't feel like I got that. It is what it is.
Oh, yeah.
Well, hey, I think next we'll move on here quickly to the lightning round. And I don't always get to answer this question, ask this question, so I'm glad I get to get there tonight. If you could sponsor anyone in the world, who would you choose and why?
Oh man, that's tough. I mean, when you say something like that, I want to say someone like Lewis Hamilton or Dewey Johnson, some big name. But I think just knowing where I came from and as a kid, just growing up, and I would take a risk on a kid in golf carts or racing 570s in work, and just even if you're just a little sponsor, I would take a risk with them because who knows, they could totally blow up, make video like they did at QRK and totally kill it. So, as a kid that came from there, I would like to take a risk with someone like Dallas Gonzalez or Caden Danbury or someone that's young and still growing and wants to pursue an off-road or any racing career. Because even right now, a small sponsorship can go a long way. In the long run.
Definitely. Yeah, I like that strategy of, you know, sponsoring a younger rider, someone that's up and coming, because, yeah, one is if they do have talent early on, you can kind of get in there and help develop their, as a sponsor, their online presence or, their business acumen.
Yep.
And then if they do blow up, or even if they don't, if they're just consistent over time, there's a lot of loyalty built in there, and they're a good brand ambassador for you right off the get-go when they start getting into larger classes and more visibility and things like that. That's like
yeah, exactly.
Caden, you mentioned Caden Danbury, and I mentioned him too, and I got to hang out with him and his mother at the Vegas Reno this year too, and just seeing him, interface with some of the sponsors there was pretty impressive. I mean, he, was hanging out with Craig Scanlon and, and that whole crew, and they all know him, and he was driving the car around, and Brett Carpenter of Rigid, he was hanging out with him, and he just talks. He's pretty mature in the way he communicates, which is pretty neat.
Yeah, definitely impressive. Caden is definitely impressive. He does normally he talks well to everyone, and Craig's a scary dude. I mean, I tell you, I met when I was only probably 9, 8 years old, and he still scares me a little bit. I mean, shoot, Craig is definitely a bigwig and definitely a scary guy. So for a young Caden to be able to go up and talk to him, no problem, is pretty impressive for sure.
Yeah, have you seen the little garden gnome that his team got him? I can't remember his name. I think that they call him Wyatt the garden gnome.
Yep.
One of my probably my second face-to-face interaction with Craig was taking a picture of him with someone had put that garden gnome on his shoulder. So that helped break the tension a little bit.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Well, that's cool, man. Well, hey, I really appreciate you coming on the show tonight. I think that we had a lot of good content, but I do want to ask you one last kind of question here. What's one kind of key takeaway that our listeners need to remember from the show? If they forgot everything else, what's that one thing that they need to take away?
Just keep working at it, and if you're not having fun racing, then you shouldn't be doing it. That's for sure. You have to have fun to be able to be successful in racing. So that's what I would take away. And if you're not having fun, don't do it.
Yeah, perfect. I mean, I'll just kind of go out on a limb here and extend that advice to just about anything in life. This goes for, hopefully people don't just go ahead and quit their jobs after listening to this, but if you're in a job that you hate, just you don't have to do it. I mean, you might think you do, and I'm not saying you don't have to have a job. You have to have a form of income most likely, but if you just hate what you're doing, I mean, just do something else. There's enough opportunity out there in the world now, and with social media and online and remote work, there's a lot of options available now that weren't before. So don't do something that you hate. Go out there, try to have fun. Or another word that I'll put in there instead of fun, be fulfilled. If you don't feel like you're having fun, but you're feeling fulfilled, that's the ticket. All right, well, that's enough deep advice in it. Who knows? I better not get any crazy angry emails from somebody somebody's spouse my wife quit her job today because of you.
That would be pretty cool. That would be pretty cool.
All right. Well, hey, again, I appreciate you coming on. What's the best way though that people can connect with you if they want to reach out?
Yep, just Instagram at Ronnie Anderson 52, Facebook Ronnie Anderson, Twitter Ronnie A520. Social media is the best way to connect, and so yeah. Watch out for some upcoming videos with me and RJ and our Razors, and partnering up with Rockstar Energy.
All right, perfect. Well, at this point, I'm going to leave you with this. Have fun and ride safe. Thanks for tuning in to this episode of the Sponsored Rider Club podcast, which is powered by 4-Wheel Parts. I want you to make sure that you are subscribed to this show, whether it's on iTunes or Google Play or Stitcher or wherever you listen to podcasts. Hit that subscribe button so you don't miss upcoming guests and upcoming episodes. And then follow us on social media. We're on all of the platforms. You can find out the most content, though, on our Facebook page. That's where we do our live videos. To get some insider access to upcoming guests, you can also check out the Sponsored Rider Club on Facebook. It is a support network where you can ask questions about best practices and get feedback from our audience. A special thanks goes out to our sponsors, 4Wheel Parts, AMSOIL, SolderWeld, Bold Racing, TopThePodium.com, and Crash Addict Industries. And I also want to shout out some of our other partners, MBRP, HMK USA, Studboy Traction, and High Octane Coffee. I look forward to serving you again next week. Until then, have fun and ride safe.